Well, hello, fifth grade mathematicians. Today we're going to do entry task day 124. Problem number 1. Which expression is equal to 12 fourths? Well, I know that to find the answer of 12 fourths, I take 12 and divide it by 4. So we know 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 12 fourths is 3. Problem number 2. 5 rabbits in a cage recorded the amount of lettuce in cups they ate yesterday. These must be really smart rabbits. Anyway, what we see with our data is that the data is in eighths and fourths. And if we look at our line plot, that is in fourths, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're going to have to use equivalent fractions. Now, there are a couple ways that I can do that. Some of these are pretty obvious and some aren't as much. But if I look at 2 and 1/8, so I go to 2, and this is in fourths. So 1/4 is the same as 2/8. So to get 1/8, I would divide the fourths in 2. I'm going to zoom in on here. So 2 and 1/8 would be right there. Okay. Next is 4/8. Well, I can do this one of two ways. I can look at this and because this is in fourths, I know that 2/4 is the same as 4/8. But the other way I could do that is I could split these all into eighths and then count up the number of eighths. But regardless, 4/8, that's an 8, that wasn't a very good 8. 4/8 is the same as 2/4. Okay, then we go to 1 and 1/4. On this one, we don't have to make it into an equivalent fraction because it's right there. Then we have 6/8. Well, I've already split this one into eighths over here, but if I didn't do that, I would know that 6/8 is the same as 3/4. And then the last one is 2 and 2/8, which is the same as 2 and 1/4. So depending on if you already converted that or not. So the key for this problem is understanding that what equivalent values are, and there are different ways of looking at those things. So on some of these, I could write the equivalent fraction down. That's 3/4, that's 1/4. So you could either change them into eighths or fourths. Some of them you need to do like 2 and 1/8. It has to be in eighths, so you're going to have to convert your line plot into eighths. So there you have that. Problem number 3. The area of the base of a right rectangular prism is 24 square inches, and the height is 8 centimeters. Now that's kind of odd. Enter the volume in cubic inches of the prism. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this is a typo, and that should be in inches. I don't know if any of you others read that and thought, what in the world are they talking about? But because the area of the base is in inches, and it wants us to find the volume in cubic inches. So a couple things that we know here is we know that length times width times height, what happened to my L? Length times width times height is volume, okay? But we also know that that volume is the area of the base times the height. Okay? And it tells us what the area of the base is. So we're going to do 24. I'm going to write it over here on the side. 24 is the area of the base, and the height is 8. This is in inches, so when we multiply that, we end up with 192 inches cubed. And there you have it. So the key here is remembering that length times width is the base. Okay, they are synonymous. Okay, problem number 4. Which statement describes the value of the expression? So as I look at this, I have two sets of parentheses, and I'm going to treat those as, for example, I know that I have to multiply 9 times 4 and then add 3 plus 6. That's what I would do first. But then I'm going to subtract those two values. Okay? So let's look at what I've got here. The value is the difference between 3 times 6 and the product of 9 times 4. Well, this value is the difference of something, but it's not the difference of 3 times 6, because this first value is 9 times 4. So we're going to cross that one out. It's not A. B, the value is the difference between the sum of 3 and 6 and 9 times 4. Well, it is the difference between the sum of 3 and 6 is here, and 9 times 4 there. Are we finding out the difference of that? Well, let's come back to that, because we want to check out our other ones. C, the value is the sum of 3 and 6 minus the product of 9 and 4. So this isn't the sum of those two values, so we're going to cross that one out. And then D, the value is the product of 9 and 4 minus the product of 3 and 6. Well, this is not a product there, so we're going to cross that one out. So what we have is we're finding the difference between these two values. And those two values in parentheses are the sum of 3 and 6 and 9 times 4. So there you have it. Entry task day 124 is in the books.